Hello everyone, my name is Roya, and today I'm coming to you with the books that I read in the first half of August. There are 7 of them here, and I felt very similarly about all of them actually, which is kind of funny, so I'm going to preface this video by basically saying that all of these books were pretty good in that they all held up as good stories and all of that. There was nothing glaringly bad that I really disliked about any of them. They all kind of had the same problem, which was that they were missing some stuff just overall from the story. Like, I wanted more out of the characters or the plot or the world. Like, they were all very a little bit flatter than I was necessarily looking for in books I want to read. The Water Outlaws by S.L. Huang. This is about an all-female gang of bandits, and with a premise like that, you would kind of expect there to be more characterization and character development, and that was just really missing from this story. So one of the main characters had a really good personality, and but the others really were not that different from each other at all. One of the main characters had a good backstory, but it's not really relevant to the rest of the story. We never really get anything from the rest of the story relating back to her backstory, and we don't really hear enough about it overall. So overall, this was a good book with a lot of unique ideas in it, but the execution of it was just not quite what I wanted. In A Garden Burning Gold by Rory Power, this is about 2 siblings who try to overthrow their father, who is the ruler, and basically this book really was missing a lot from the world building and also the characters as well, and also the magic system is a really significant part of this story, but we really don't get any of that on page. The Sunlit Man by Brandon Sanderson. This was a really good book, but I just wanted more out of the characters and more out of the storytelling as well. I think that the way that he wrote this in the actual kind of storytelling aspect of it was really flat compared to how he normally writes. So I was kind of like, okay, like, sure, but so it could have been so plot-wise it was really good, but it could have had a lot more to it. Me and the Nightmare Painter, also by Brandon Sanderson. This is about 2 people who live in parallel worlds, and they keep accidentally like going to each other's worlds, basically. Like, they're connected in a really weird way that they can't figure out what it is. And so when one of them goes to the other one's world, they're like, the other one becomes incorporeal, so they have to basically make up a reason why the other one is there, and the one who actually lives in that world is not. So overall, not a bad premise, and if you want a book that really reads like a manga or an anime, this is definitely really good for that. But I think overall, I really wanted more character depth out of this. The characters were very, like, standard. They were very, like, the exact kind of characters that you would find in a manga type of thing. Like, they were very, very, like, cookie cutter straight out of a contemporary manga, that type of thing. But overall, I thought the world building was really cool because the 2 worlds that they're each from are very, very different. One of them, it's nighttime all the time, as the other one has like floating plants. And We Shall Be Monsters by Tarsim. This is a Frankenstein-based, not really a retelling, but a Frankenstein-based story where that's mixed with Indian folklore, where the main character wants to bring her sister back to life. And this is a really good premise, especially mixing it with Indian folklore, because one of the main characters in Frankenstein is Indian, and I feel like a lot of people forget about her and all of that. But basically, I felt like this book was really dry, and it had a lot of lulls in the action. Like, it just went on and on about not much, like when we're not really finding out anything new, and I'm kind of like, hey, where's the story? So overall, idea was good, execution was not what I wanted it to be, and I wanted more out of the story. To the Bone by Elena Bruzas. This comes out on September 10th. This is an arc that I got from Penguin Teen, so thank you so much to Penguin Teen for sending this my way. This is about a girl living in Jamestown when the first settlers are living there, basically, and she is there as an indentured servant. She's an orphan. Her father initially went to Jamestown, and she went there to look for him because the rest of her family died. So she does not find him when she gets there. He is not there. So she winds up being an indentured servant to this guy and his pregnant wife. And clearly, this guy is a jerk, and he only cares about his wife for the child in her womb, and that's it. And the people of the town start starving and starving more and more. A lot of people die in this story, and it definitely is really good at touching on kind of the fact that the native people do not want the settlers to be there. And so our main character definitely discovers that none of them should have come there. And I thought that that aspect of the story was really good. And then also the kind of predatoryness of the guy who she works for towards her is really, like, it doesn't evolve into him actually trying anything necessarily, but you can see how, like, it's kind of saying, like, hey, be careful of predatory, like, gross men and all that stuff. So that was kind of a good moral to the story without anything having to happen to the main character in that regard. And then also content warning for the deaths of multiple horses for food. A horse does get slaughtered on page. These are individuals' horses, and the town has to slaughter them for food, so the people are all really sad doing it, and it's like, oh man. So that part was just really, really jarring to read. There is also implied eating of cats. There is some eating of rats on page, and then there is a lot of cannibalism, both on page and not. I did really enjoy reading this in that the conflict was really good. The way that it created the conflict was really good. But the story as a whole, other than like the people all starving, the story as a whole was a little bit flatter in that there really was no, like, the main character was kind of a placeholder. Like, she wasn't really particularly enticing to the reader. There was no real reason for this to be our main character. Kind of like, there was not a whole lot that happened that made her, like, special in any way to the story. And finally, The Knights Chosen by Emily Hornberg. This is about a princess who is the kind of chosen one of their goddess, and she is engaged to marry her friend who is a prince, who is the chosen one of their other god, and that's why they have to get married. But she's in love with his brother, and they actually dated, and she got pregnant and lost the baby and stuff, but she never, like, told him at all or anything. Like, no one really knew about it. And so fast forward to the present day when the story takes place, and the king basically ends up getting into a coma, long story short, and the stepmother tries to take over the kingdom, all that fun stuff. So the princess and her the prince who she's actually in love with run away and try to, like, figure out a way to stop her and all of that. So it was a good book in that I thought that the plot was good. I thought that the world building in terms of the mythology of the world was really good. The writing was great, but I felt like this book did have a lot to it that did not actually have any relevance to the story. So for example, the stepmother, the queen, has a daughter who is locked in a mirror, and there's no explanation as to why this was a thing. Nobody ever, like, they free her from the mirror and no one ever finds out why she was ever in the mirror. It has no, freeing her from the mirror does not change anything else about the story. So there were a lot of things like that I wasn't really sure what the relevance was to the rest of the story. And then also, with this being a second chance romance, I think that a lot of second chance romances don't necessarily work for me, because I don't understand why this is necessarily the second time they're getting together, that type of thing. This story could have been about the two of them falling in love for the first time, and it would have been much the same, and the relationship between them would have actually been better that way. But instead, we get them falling in love for the second time after they had always loved each other, but they hadn't had a history in many years or even referred to what happened before. And when they get together this second time, there is so little referring back to their previous relationship at all. And the fact that she did actually get pregnant with his baby and lost it and then has to tell him like in the present day about it finally, that actually had nothing to do with the rest of the story and it had no bearing on the plot, so that could have easily just been left out. I don't know what it is about me and second chance romances that just don't always work for me. I feel like they have to be kind of a certain way, in that they kind of have to have a reason why they split up and a reason why they are getting back together now. Whereas this didn't really have that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. That is my wrap up of the first half of August. And let me know if you've read any of these books and have any thoughts on them, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!